I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She's the author of the book Text Messages to My Sons, Connecting Deeply in a World of Devices. No other than Miss Tammy Cohen.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, Miss Tammy, and can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Tammy Cohen, or on the book, it's Tammy J. Cohen. And I live in New York City, in Manhattan. I have three sons. I'm married, and text messages to my sons, connecting deeply in the world of devices, is my first book.
Congratulations, Miss Tammy. At what age did you realize that you're good in writing?
Well, that's a great question, Daniel, because I loved writing as a kid. I loved my English classes and history because you got to write papers and writing essays, and I was always loved to express myself via the word. I found it easier to express and share writing than speaking a lot of the times. And I always gravitated towards those classes. But it wasn't until rather recently that I decided to write a book, which is really interesting because I think a lot of us are writers at heart. Like we can write, and people write all the time, actually. But I think you cross the line to become an author when you actually publish. I think that's where there's a difference. But otherwise, I've loved writing since I'm pretty young.
Definitely. Who are your favorite authors that
It's
influenced?
funny because it's changed over time. So when I was growing up, I was a big fan of Leon Uris, Jackie Collins. We all read Jackie Collins, Harold Robbins, Ken Follett, Robert Ludlum, and then as I grew up, as I started getting older, I was switching to some biographies, and I was getting more into historical pieces, and then it's interesting. Over the last couple of years, I started getting into more of the mindset authors, or reading Napoleon Hill, for example, or Steve Covey, which I had never thought about reading those kind of books. Jay Shetty, Robin Sharma, his books. I'm going to share something with you. I love at before I go to sleep, I love to read anything paranormal. Like it could be Cressley Cole or Christine Feehan or any of those authors. Now, Lingy saying like paranormal romance is how I completely relax at night. That's it.
Oh my goodness, you want to scare yourself before you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you describe the writing of your favorite authors, what is it or what are they?
There, what's my favorite type of writing? Well, I'd always gone for something with mystery, solving a problem. I was always attracted to crime story type of things. Spy novels were always big on my list. I found them fascinating, that kind of genre. But like I said, like now, like over the last couple of years, especially the last 3 years, I started really getting into more of the mindset genre, that style of, it's not necessarily self-help. It's more, coming into touch with your thoughts, your inner world. And that was something that really led me to writing text messages to my sons, because I wanted to share whatever I was learning and whatever I was reading with my sons. I wanted to connect with them in a completely different way. Give them, send them messages of love and send them inspiration, but also share knowledge of what I was learning and change it up, change the relationship a little bit by doing that.
Sounds interesting, Miss Tammy. So, what are your short term and long term goals in writing?
Well, my short-term goals always are just to do the work. I mean, you have to be really consistent. So you have to put aside the time to write. And I'm realizing that I need to, really make the effort because I have a couple of different things that I'm involved with. So I always have to find the time to consistently do my work. Now, with text messages to my sons, it's text messaging. So I always make sure to find the time, and you can find a couple of minutes a day, especially to write that message. So that's like always a short-term goal, is to make sure that I continue writing and to write daily. It's a discipline, it's a commitment. And then the long-term goal is to sell a lot of books, Daniel. That's my long-term goal.
Definitely to spread your book.
Yes, to spread the
Definitely.
word. Yeah.
Yes, speaking of spreading, I want to shout out to the people listening according to my ranking tops in the last 30 days. Because in Uganda, I got number 13 on the Apple chart, Egypt at number 16, Nepal at 21, Slovenia at 42, Indonesia at 44, Morocco at 68, Nigeria at 81. Qatar at 102, Canada at 120, Spain at 104, United Arab Emirates at 109, Zambia at 116, Zimbabwe at 165, and a lot more. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast, because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world like me, Tommy J. Cohen. Text messages to my sons, connecting deeply in a world of devices. How did you craft it?
How did I craft it? Well, it started with texting my sons daily. And over 2 years of doing this daily, because when you want to change a relationship, when you want to send these messages, and to me, Daniel, the phone is neither good or bad. It's the content on the phone any device that's shared that makes a difference. And I decided I wanted to share love, inspiration, knowledge, encouragement with them. So I started writing these text messages, and you have to be consistent because telling someone you love them here and there, it's not the same as reinforcing it. Repetition is really the king for people, and it really makes a difference in somebody's life to get a message every day of complete support for them, love, and all kinds of those good feelings of bulletproofs you for the day. So I started writing these messages, and people I would share with friends, like, oh, I'm texting my sons, and this is what I'm texting them, and they were like, that's amazing. You should put it in a book. And I was like, all right, Daniel, no idea how to put it in a book. I really didn't know how to write a book or what to do. But one thing I would recommend to anybody who really wants to write a book, and I went the self-publishing route, but I still made sure to work with experts, to hire a team company that knows what they're doing. The editing process is really important. You want to put out a piece that's well written. You want to put out a piece that's professional. If you're going to go to that route to actually publish it, you want to make sure that everything is grammatically, sound, and that I have a lot of quotes, and I share a lot of knowledge. So you have to have citations. You have to make sure your quotes are accurately attributed. So there was a lot that I wasn't really capable of doing on my own, so to speak, because I didn't have that skill set. So working with a company, I worked with Pen for Hire, was very helpful because it really helped me to produce something professionally. And they also helped me get it up on Amazon. My book is on Amazon US, but also UK, Canada, Netherlands. It's in several markets. And they helped me with that whole process so that I could self-publish versus going traditional publishing route, but it was able to be done well. So that's my advice to any writer, and that's the process that I went through. It took me about 8 months from the time I decided to put it into a book to publish. And then before that, it was about 2 years of texting and gathering all these messages together and creating chapters, things like that, and the formatting of the book. That's really important too. Formatting books, it's something I wasn't versed in. So I also had to hire a graphic designer to create the covers, because covers are really important. Apparently, 60% of the sale of the book depends on the front and back cover and the overview on the back. So I learned a lot. And I learned a lot from professionals who I went to first.
Congratulations, Miss Tommy. So what behind the title of your debut book, Text Messages to My Sons?
Well, I just wanted it to be really understood because literally these are text messages to my sons. And I wanted people to understand that, today, Daniel, we're having less of these conversations. Like we're not doing in-person conversations. And people, especially, it doesn't have to just be with your kids. I mean, people just aren't having the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. They're not even staying on the phone to have a conversation. They're using their devices to connect. So I wanted to show people that you can actually have these connections. You can use electronics and you can have the same effect that you would have if you were sitting down, because now people aren't sitting down and talking. You've been in restaurants and you look around and you see people are on their phone at the tables and they're sitting across from each other. So I was kind of like, let's do this, especially today. Let's find a way to make these devices um, useful and spreading light and spreading love instead of what they're doing now, which is spreading hatred, indoctrination, incitement, violence. Let's change it up. If we start with our own families and our community, it'll go out from there. The messages of love, and you can get them out in light speed by texting. So that's how I came up with the title, because it's really very straightforward. And when my tagline, connecting deeply in a world of devices, text messages to my sons, connecting deeply in a world of devices, lays it straight at. The cover of the book is actually a text message, the iconic text message that you see in the green with the little white text message inside of it. And then also the whole book is written in text messaging format. Very easy to read, Daniel. You're reading text messages. It's written with some emojis, and it moves like reading text messages. So people have been giving me feedback that they love it. It's so easy to read, and the messages are really amazing and inspiring for them. And it's giving them ideas of how to reach out to their loved ones and how to connect with people better using a device.
So, Miss Tammy, do you think that phone is a good invention for humanity?
Oh, that's a great question, Daniel. I think for the purposes of my book, yes, because because it gave
Definitely.
me like a title and it gave me like an idea. But oh, Daniel, I grew up in a time, that we went outside and played, and there were no phones. We didn't have any cell phones when I was growing up. There was no internet, so we had to do things really differently. And I think people were different. I think, everything is going so quickly, that yeah, it's a different world. But just because something may be not necessarily something you think is a good thing or a bad thing or a great thing or whatever, for me, it's more about use what you can, use what you have, at this point, because whatever it is that's reachable to people and can make a difference is amazing. That's what we want to say. That's what we want to do. And
Yes,
yeah, so you have to use what you have. I don't look at anything more as how is it useful, Can we use it in a good way?
certainly, Miss Tammy. So, how has the publishing process been for you?
The publishing process was, like I said, it was very daunting when I thought about it because I wasn't really sure how to go about it. But once I started working with a professional team, I can honestly tell you that the publishing went so much smoother than I thought it was going to go, because I had help and I had guidance and I had people who knew what they were doing to help me get it onto Amazon and to upload it, because I didn't go traditional. So it was very daunting when I thought about it. But like anything else, if you break it down into small steps and you do one at a time, one step leads to the next. And that's what I found with the book as well. I really can honestly tell you that text messages to my sons, this book is a labor of love. So it was joy. But the nuts and bolts of the publishing part, I'm feeling very fortunate that I had a professional company assist me with that.
So, did you draw from any personal experiences when crafting the story or characters?
Well, for me, it was I at the start of the pandemic, I wasn't in such a great place in my own head, and I realized I hadn't been for many years. So I took it upon myself to start, you know, taking a journey of personal growth and development. And I decided I wanted to learn. I wanted to do courses and programs and see what was going on. I founded a women's business network at the same time. I started expanding my mind and trying to think differently. And I was going through such a process that I really wanted to share it with my sons because I wanted them to see me as a little differently, and I wanted to be a role model, and I also wanted to be able to share, with them what I was learning, and hopefully they would see some of these things as really positive too. So for their lives, not just about me. So that's basically the inspiration for me to do this was the inspiration I was receiving from thought leaders and from programs I was doing and workshops that were really making me think differently for the first time in many, many years. So that was how the whole inspiration came about for text messages to my sons, for me to start texting them. That's exactly how it happened.
Yes, so what do you hope readers will take away from your book after they finish reading it? Text messages to my sons.
Well, I'll tell you what my readers are telling me now, that they feel they feel inspired, they feel enlightened, they feel love when they read the texts. They find them very interesting. They find the information in them very interesting, but they also love the feeling, the energy coming out of the book is really positive. We're living in a time when it's not positive. There's a lot of really scary things going on in the world and a lot of hate out there. And I think the book, because it's positive and it's good energy and it's meant to bring about light and love and these things that are really important. I think people are feeling it. They tell me they are. And I think it's inspiring them to think differently or try to communicate differently with their loved ones, with their friends, with their children. So I think it's really having a good effect. And I think that's the effect that I was always hoping to bring to the table. And I think if you do it on your level, and then there was a very famous commercial that came out years ago as a Well Balsam commercial. And it was like, and they'll tell two friends and so on and so on. So if you spread light with somebody and you spread love, they'll spread it with somebody else and so on and so on. And that's the whole point, is just to keep spreading positivity and good energy and love.
Definitely, Miss Tammy. How important was research in creating the worlds or context of your book, if applicable?
The research. Okay, this is very interesting because a lot of the when I started writing my text, I mean, clearly I wasn't thinking of writing a book, so I just was coming from the heart. But I will say that as I started getting into it and I was reading more and more and I was learning, and because there are a lot of great, great minds out there and thought leaders who have written books that they've taken 30 years to figure something out and they put it in a book, which you can read in a couple of weeks, everything that took them 30 years. So I was kind of reading nonstop and I was like, this is amazing. So I was taking their information and sharing it with my kids, but of course attributing it to them. So one of the most important things in the book I think, is the citation pages that has the references and the footnotes and everything about everything, everyone I quote, and every strategy or whatever that I share, that's from a thought leader. But what I did learn, Daniel, which was really interesting when I was writing text messages to my sons, there's so many times that we attribute a quote to a celebrity. And the truth of the matter is that once the editing team started really digging into everything, they were like, this is not attributed to the celebrity. The celebrity actually just used the quote, but people automatically assume that the celebrity came up with it because nobody does any research or looks deep. And I was just like, wow, I was learning that, quotes, you think they're attributed to this person and that person never came up with it. They just parroted it. So that was something I learned and I wasn't aware of. But yeah, the research part of it came as I started sharing more knowledge versus just like, I love you and you're an incredible person. I started realizing I had to make sure that the whatever I was adding in was well researched and well cited as well.
Very well said, Miss Tommy. But before we go on, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, Food 101, our third season with Chef Alessandro, one of the best executive chefs in one of the best five-star restaurants in downtown Toronto. So please do listen, Food 101, plus one more. Our books are out. not only one but 13 volumes. People, Food 101 Volume 1 Basics until 13 is only the books that you need. How to create a delicious food. Available on Amazon and leading online bookstores worldwide. Text messages to my sons, connecting deeply in a world of devices. What is the best highlight?
The best highlight. Okay, the best highlight of the from the book is the 10 chapters that each cover a different paragon, so parameter. So there's mindfulness and gratitude, and there's leadership and dedication, and there's dedication and discipline, there's leadership and focus, there's family and love. That's the highlight. The highlight is spread light, spread love, read text messages to my sons, because we actually give you pages at the end of each chapter to practice your own messages. Um, and that's it. That's the highlight, is to keep it positive and keep the energy and frequency high. That's the highlight. And I, you know, want to share that with the world. And I really think it's important, and we need more people doing it.
Definitely, totally agree, Miss Tammy. So, how do you think your book stands out in its genre or category?
I think it stands out because the cover is really very eye-catching, and it's very clear. And I think it stands out because it's really text messages. They're poetry. It's like reading text poetry, and text poetry to me is a new genre. It doesn't exist, and the format makes it really stand out because it's written in a text message format, which I don't know any books written that way. So the cover is very eye-catching. I don't know if you can see it right now on Amazon, but it's beautiful. It's really cool. It's very vibrant. And then, of course, you have the whole format. It doesn't exist anywhere else, that format. And the genre of poetry and text messaging, I think, is something that's going to become a thing in the future, since we are texting and we are WhatsApping and we are sending messages nonstop all day.
Very well said, Miss Tammy. What kind of readers do you believe will connect most with your book, and why?
That's a great question, Daniel. I would say that, of course, parents, well, because the title is text messages to my son, so it could be, parents will connect with it, but really it's something that once you start reading it, you realize it's applicable to anybody you want to share love with. So anybody you want to connect with, anybody you want to repair a relationship or build a relationship or better relationship with. It's not limited to just kids. None of the texts really say, "Good morning, my son." They all start with, "Good morning, sunshine," and there's a sunshine emoji. So "Good morning, sunshine" goes to anybody. And that came about because I love the song "You Are My Sunshine." So that's how I start every text to each of my kids, is "Good morning, sunshine."
Well said, Miss Tammy. Are there any plans or sequel or related works to expand on the story or themes?
Well, this is something I've been thinking about in my head. I've always continued. It's not like I stopped texting them once I put the book together. I have lots of texts still to go. So we'll see about a volume two, for more positive messages and love. I think we're never at a shortage for those kind of high frequency, high energy, positive, good messages, and sharing truth and good information. I don't think there's ever a time that we won't need these kind of messages.
Certainly. Thank you, Fitchspot, for being the number two best 100 best book podcast on the planet. Thank you so much. And number one in the art category. What advice would you give to aspiring others who are looking to embark on their own writing journeys?
Okay, this is what I think is really important if you want to get on a writing journey. A, you have to make the time to write. And you don't have to worry about how good or bad the writing is. Start writing, make the time to write, be committed, be consistent, do it every day, at least 5 days a week. Just start writing. I think to get onto a writing journey as well, or to go to the point where you want to publish, look at your material, go through it, live with it, and then get serious. If you're going to turn it into a book, make sure your research is done, make sure everything you have is well crafted and well thought out, and then hire a professional company. I hired Pen for Hire, but there's many out there that can actually take you through the editing process and the formatting process, and connect you where you need to get these very important skill sets, because you can't be everything. And I've seen books come out that have grammatical errors, and it just isn't professional. So you want it to be as professional as possible. And then, if you're going to, you have to decide if you're going to self-publish, that you have assistance in uploading properly. That's a whole other thing. Skill set is getting it on and making sure it's done well. Hiring a graphic designer to make sure your covers are really well done, well executed, and attractive. Because, like I said, the statistic is that 60% of books are purchased based on the front and the back cover, and that overview, which was really interesting to me. So there's a couple of elements you really need to pay attention to, because going through the traditional publishing route is not for a lot of people, and it's not necessarily the best route. There is hybrid publishing and there is self-publishing. I did self-publishing, but I made sure to get the right help. So there's always people out there who can help you, and I think it's important to take advantage of that if you want to publish and be an author.
Yes, people, stop procrastinating and go, go, go. Probably you are the best in the making, like Miss Tammy J. Cohen. So, Miss,
Daniel, it's never
yes.
too late. It's never too late to do anything. You can do anything. We are limitless. We are creators. We can do it. We just have to do it. We just have to start doing it, like you said.
Yes, do it. So, Miss Tammy, how did you see your text messages to my son fitting into the broader literary landscape or cultural conversations?
Oh, I think it'll fit in beautifully into the broader landscape for cultural conversations, because I feel like it is a new genre that I've created with this texting format of writing, and I think the messaging, and I think it's a very easy way for people to read, and people want things quicker now, right? So this gives them the messages and gives them the information in a format that's very easy to take in. I think the whole idea of the poetry aspect of it. So a lot of the messages feel very poetic, people tell me, and they love reading it. So I think the genre is going to be more in the, not necessarily, I wouldn't say the conversation of just self-help and parenting, but really that bigger conversation of how do we spread positivity? How do we bring light? How do we make a difference and get out there and have people hear something that they're worthy, that they are good, that they need to get these kind of messages and feelings, so that it will combat. I mean, if you're raised in madness and only messages you're receiving are hate all day long, how are you going to grow up? How are you going to be? What kind of adult are you going to be? What are you going to be capable of? So this is really important. I think it's really important that we start focusing on what content is out there and how to change the content so we can make people, put them in a better place in their mind, and how they conduct their lives. And that starts with positivity from when you're a young kid. But it's never too late. It's never too late. My kids are older. I started doing this with them when they were older, but you know what? It's really made an impact on them, to the point that they wrote the foreword of the book, because what it means to them to get these positive messages every day. They know they're loved, and it makes them feel bulletproof. Even if the day goes sideways, they have something that they hold on to, and it's very simple. It's not material. It's just a message that can change the course of your day.
Yes, very well said, Miss Tammy. So, lastly, what's next for you as an author?
The next thing probably would be to continue my texting, to continue learning, to continue growing, and God willing, put out text messages to my sons, connecting deeply in a world of devices, volume 2. That's my that's my next thought.
Looking forward to it, Miss Tammy, and you will You are most welcome to come back and promote your follow up book. Can you please invite our listeners to support text messages to my sons?
Text messages to my sons, connecting deeply in a world of devices. You can actually get it in two different ways. One is by visiting my website, www.tc, T as in Tom, C as in cat, brand, BRAND, consulting.com/text messages to my sons. Takes you right to the page to order the book. It's also on Amazon. It's on Amazon UK, Canada, US, and there's a couple of other markets it's on too as well. So yeah, that's where you can find it on Amazon, or you go to my website and that page will take you, the text messages page will take you to the Amazon page as well. So that's the best two ways to get it.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Tammy J. Cohen because if you support her, more books to come. This episode is being brought to you by Primalife Organics. So, Miss Tammy, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. It was a pleasure.
More to come, people. See you soon.